All right. So everybody looks like they have their whiteboards up. Let's start with, well, who wants to go first? Whoa, whoa, not everybody. Not all at the same time. Team 1, I'm thinking of a number between 2 and 4. 3, good job. All right, Team 3. So where's your whiteboard? Can we see your whiteboard? Thank you. So we'll give you the first one, explicitness, which sounds, I don't know, like a bad rating on a DVD or something. So what do we mean by explicitness?
We wrote down a fully and clearly expressed agreement that is spelled out directly.
Directly. And some others might have express or implied, right? And we kind of walked through what we meant by express. It's either what or what? Written or oral. And we said the implied could be implied by the conduct of the parties. But there's one other type of implied contract in your chapter. And some of you have it, I'm sure, on your whiteboards. Go ahead and flip your whiteboards over. Let's see it all. Everyone's. Anybody have quasi-contract? Oh, Team 5, you could tell me you do and I wouldn't know. Is it there? So what is a quasi-contract? It's implied by law. So instead of being implied by the conduct of the parties, the law implies a contract. Ow. Like how does that work? When nothing the parties did or said or wrote creates a contract. What was the example they used in your chapter? It can involve the lumber and a deck.
Mistakenly delivers a load of lumber to your house.
All right, so you're building your deck out back when all of a sudden the lumber yard pulls up with a load of lumber and you're like, cool, I didn't order this, but I'll build my deck with it. Kind of a weird example, but anyway. What should you do?
Tell them to take it back.
Either pay for it, oh, I didn't order this, but I'll take it and pay for it, or say, hey, I didn't order this. So you have an opportunity to reject, but you don't, and you use it to build your deck. Is there a contract? No, there's not. That's the point of this contract, is that then the lumberyard sues you because you took advantage of them, and the court says, poof, now there is. It's the only type of contract that is created after the fact, right? Does that make sense? I'm probably not going to happen that often, but I was asking my online students, they were like, somebody delivers a pizza to your house by mistake and you eat it. I mean, you can do all kinds of variations on this. Mine is, let's say I'm, teaching class here right now, and we're live on Facebook and we're live on Zoom, and I'm not paying a whole lot of attention, and I slip and whack my head right on the podium here, and I'm laying on the floor unconscious. What are you guys going to do? Leave. Okay. Yeah. The class is out early. Yay. What else? Oh, that's nice. See, like some of you are like, take his wallet, whatever, but you want to help, right? So you call for help, but none of the phones are, the phone lines are not working. What are you going to do now? What? Run to the hospital. Take me with you? Okay. So yeah, so right across the street there's a hospital. So you take me over there, and you wheel me up to the counter. And they say, sir, would you like medical treatment? And I say, nothing, because I'm unconscious, right? And they say, I know, let's have him sign something. Nothing. Ooh, I took business law. Let's watch him and see if he implies through his conduct that there's a contract. Nothing, right? But still, they do what? They treat me, right? An operation might be a little, but maybe it's necessary, right? So I wake up, you're all still there, my fantasy, and the big bandage on my head and everything, and I'm like, let's get to class and learn. And you're like, yeah, and we start to head back, and somebody says, hey, stop, you have to pay for that. And I say, what an awesome learning opportunity. I don't have to pay. There's no contract. Am I right that there's no contract? Yes, I am. Rule number one, right? Why am I right? Right. I just told you I didn't say anything. I didn't write anything. I didn't do anything. But we can't have society like that, right? Otherwise, they'd have to wait until I regain consciousness to ask me, or they would treat me and never get paid. So it benefits me and them. So if they sued me and went to court, I would say, Your Honor, there's no contract. And the judge would say, watch this. Poof, now there is. You're right, there isn't one now, but now there is. Right? Does that make sense? So there's a reason why we create this quasi-contract through the law. It's to avoid what? What'd your chapter say? Unjust enrichment. So I would have got the value of medical treatment without paying for it. You would have got a new deck with lumber without paying for it. Pizza, whatever the example is. All right. So people online are saying, tough crowd, Gary. I'm live on Facebook and they're like, so say something really good. Be nice. All right. So number 2. Bilateral versus unilateral. We did team 3, right? Team 2. What's the difference? Bilateral and unilateral. Bi means what? 2. To what? What? Promise is good. A lot of people say 2 parties, but we have already established that contracts need at least 2 parties, right? So 2 parties make mutual promises. Uni means one what? Promise. Well, wait a second. If only one party's promising, what's the other party doing? Acting. So you read the chapter and it talks about unilateral contract. It says in exchange for some performance or act, right? So here's the key to this. Like on the quiz or on the final, if you're trying to identify if it's bilateral or unilateral, the way you know it's a unilateral contract is the way the offer is stated. So, for example, most people in my neighborhood contract for snow plowing service, right? And they've got a written agreement, and the snowplow shows up if all the conditions are met, right? And it's for the whole season. Me, I'm a little, I don't know, I procrastinate things, and I'm cheap, right? So as I was leaving the house today, I yelled over at the neighbor kid, I'll give you $20 if you shovel my driveway. Did you notice how I expressed my offer? I will give you, I promise to give you $20 if you what? Shovel my driveway. So this protects me because the only way he's going to get that $20 is if he actually shovels my driveway, right? What if he yelled back, I promise? Is that what I want? Is that what I offered? No, I don't want, his performance isn't promising me to shovel my driveway. I mean, he's 4. He doesn't really do that great of a job anyway. So now let's try this out. I'll pay you $20 if you shovel my driveway. And I come home at the end of the day, the driveway's not shoveled. Breach of contract? No, good. Why not? He doesn't have to tell me. He can't tell me. I don't care if he tells me. You can tell me, I go, whatever. Okay, let's say he's 14. I don't know. Let's say he's 24. Come on.
He never performed the act.
He didn't perform the act, therefore there's what? No contract of breach. See, that's why this is important. It's how the offer is stated and whether the offer is accepted, because we already said you need both an offer and acceptance to have an agreement to have a contract. And so there's no contract to breach if he doesn't shovel. Let's get trickier. I don't think it's that tricky, but we'll see. I'll give you 20 bucks if you shovel my driveway by 5 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time. And I come home, it's 1 minute after 5, driveway's not shoveled. I'm in a rage. Is that a breach of contract? I'm suing this 4-year-old.
So you sue the parents.
Okay, I'm making this up. Okay.
No.
No, it's not a breach because it's not a contract because he never accepted. And there's lots of reasons why he might not, like the snow's too high for him. What else? He's 4. He decided to go play with toys or something. What else? He didn't have the time. He just decided it wasn't worth it. Wow, there's a lot of snow over there. He never shovels his driveway. 20 bucks is nothing. Right? So there's no contract. Now, where this gets tricky for some people, because usually a student will say, well, what if he starts to perform but doesn't finish? What do you think? You shouldn't be obligated. I mean, he's in the process of acceptance, but I shouldn't be obligated to pay if he doesn't perform the act that I invited him to perform. Or probably more likely, I'll wait till he shovels all the hard parts and go, I revoke my offer. Because no, I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Does it have to be like extremely specific? Like you just said, shovel my driveway, and he shovels a part of your driveway. Like, isn't he performed an act that you asked? You'd have to say like, shovel my entire driveway, and I'll give you $20.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it helps to be more specific. When I say driveway, I mean my entire driveway.
Yeah.
And a reasonable person would probably take that not to mean like a path. Like the path across the walk when I came in this morning. A little path, shovel path through there. That's not what shovel my driveway means.
Yeah.
Right? But anyway. Let's forget how old he is, right? You know, that was just for Facebook. So now there could be an argument over the quality of the performance, right? Like I told my son, you'll probably hate this if you ever saw this, but I told him yesterday, will you go out and shovel the sidewalk for me? If you do, I'll let you play video games. Say like money, yeah, dad buys me food, shelter, all that stuff. Anyway, video games, now we're talking, right? So he comes back in after quite a while, and I said, shoveled the sidewalk? And he goes, yes. And I looked out, and none of the sidewalk up to our house was shoveled, but he had went down to the sidewalk down by the street and shoveled all of that. And I'm like, that's awesome. Now all the people who might be walking through there, but could you also shovel the part that comes up to our house and the steps and stuff? So he did that, and that was great. So sometimes there's confusion about what the scope of the offer is, and sometimes performance may not be what you expected. So those type of issues do come up. Like there's an example in your chapter. I just changed this. I stole this. Like, I'll give you $20 if you mow my lawn. Well, I don't know about you, but when I mow my lawn, it's like those lines are perfect, right? But I hired some kid to come mow my lawn. It may not, you know, like, does that include trimming? Is the line straight? So yeah, we can get into those kind of things. But that's the difference between unilateral and bilateral. All right, enforceability is the next one. And let's go with team 4. What you got up there? I see void. All right, void, voidable, and unenforceable. What's a void contract? What? That would be an example, right? A legal contract, like your contract to kill me, would be illegal. A void contract generally, without an example, a void contract is no contract. It's not one to start with because it's missing an element. That's what the chapter says, which a student argued with me like, well, why'd you call it a contract? As I said, void contract. It's a term of art, which means void means no. So no contract to start with. Voidable is different though. Don't get those two terms mixed up. Voidable means what? It means a valid contract that at least one of the parties could back out. Could be both, right? And we use that minor as an example, like a minor could back out of some contracts, right? Can you think of like a condition or something in a contract that the parties might put in that says, now that we have a contract, we can still back out of it if we want to, or if some condition isn't met because we don't want it to be a breach.
The full-time contract to say if the thing goes down, you can break it. That lower contract.
Right. So it may say something in it about, like, if we fail to provide cellular service for some period of time, then you would be entitled to not pay us, and that wouldn't be considered a breach, or vice versa. I don't think many of your contracts say if you don't pay, we'll forgive you for that. But yeah, that's an example of some kind of condition. I think of like when you contract to buy a house, what's a common condition? Pass all the inspections and that type of stuff. And if it does, you're obligated to perform. If not, you could have the contract discharged without it being a breach of contract. All right. How's unenforceable different than those?
Example is like a time limit on it. Like you have this contract and you fail to do this in this amount of time, time's up.
Right. So
Enforce the contract.
this is, again, a valid contract, but instead of focusing on somebody's right to get out of it, we're saying that it can't be enforced anymore. So the chapter gives you an example of a statute of limitations, right? So say you're sitting at home, phone rings, and somebody says, you owe us this amount of money. And you're like, what? Who is this? And you're like, well, we're so-and-so, but we used to be so-and-so. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I remember I had that credit card bill a long time ago. And they say, yeah, we haven't been really good about collecting it. You haven't been really good about paying it. How about you just give us half and we'll call it good? You're like, well, that sounds like a pretty good compromise, but what might be the issue? They actually couldn't sue you because the court wouldn't enforce it because it's longer than the statute of limitations. So you got a contract, the contract's breached when you don't pay it. They don't sue you, but wait years. If they were to take that to court, the court might say, depending on what the statute says, you've waited too long. It is a contract, but we're not going to enforce it now. Right? So statute of limitations is the way a contract might not be enforced. All right. So the last one up there. Degree of completion. Who hasn't had a chance to go? Some of you are looking like, call me team one. Are you guys?
Degree of completion is how complete like the contract is.
Yes. So it's not about the formation of the contract, but how much of it is done. And they distinguish what from what under completion. It's either partially complete or complete, and they call that, what's the word? Partially the what? Executed. So it's either executory or executed. Executory means at least one of the parties haven't done at least one thing. Executed means everybody has done everything they're supposed to. I think partially executed means executory, right? So anybody ever paid for a car over an installment contract versus just paying cash for it? At the end, when you make all the payments, anybody got there where you paid off your car? what needs to happen. Because it's still executory. Even though you've made all your payments, the other party has an obligation.
They have to give you your car, basically.
No, you got the
Title
car,
to it.
right, title,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people pay off the car and you should be expecting something that removes the lien holder from your title. So now you have it. And it's not until that final step happens that it's executed. All right, let's take a break here and do attendance and talk about next class. All right, I'll stop sharing.